9.5 years. I manage Power 98.7, it's a top station. I manage the manager of Capricorn. And in the next 4 months, we're launching a new radio station in Bloemfontein and another one in the Eastern Cape. So all in all, I've been in charge of 4 radio stations. I think that I'm fortunate enough to have worked with these guys here and having had Power sponsor this as a media partner. It's very important that we do this sort of thing and ventilate issues. You know, I see a lot of people who are much younger than I am. I'm going to be 50 next year. So it's really fantastic to see the young faces. I mean, you know, it's not an easy throwaway statement to say the future belongs to the youth. It's an obvious thing. It doesn't belong to someone who's over 35. It really, in Madiba's words, it is in your hands now. So that's me. Kid Fonque?
I'm Kid Fonque. Hi everyone. I could literally just sit here and listen to Christos the whole day. He was just amazing. Anyway, I don't have the amazing experience as Bob does. I didn't even know that I was going to get onto radio. My history is music, record label. I was with Soul Candy for 4 years. 10 years overall, did distribution, when I did the label stuff, I worked with a lot of the big guys at the time. Casa, worked with Lula Cafe, Euphonic. And then just the Soul Candy was starting to change. I got offered a position at 5FM, which you've been part of, right? And I was taking someone's slot, someone that is not very me. And when we were having discussions with 5FM, they were saying to me, you know, Sunday 5 to 7, are you keen? Obviously I was keen, but I wanted to do it on my terms. And I told them that, they agreed. And Selective Styles is 2 years old now. And I still feel like a baby. But I think anyone that has heard Selective Styles or anyone that follows the show on 5FM, you'll know the big thing for me is about independent music. The big thing is I'm not really genre specific, although I am house heavy. I just want to give good music a platform, and I believe I've done that. And I just want to keep working, and I need more hours on 5. Can you give me more hours on 5?
Well, you know, what Kid Fonque is talking about is that at some stage I was General Manager of Commercial Services, meaning I was in charge of 5 Metro and Good Hope as General Manager. And a lot of artists would come to me with a CD and say, how do I get playlisted? And I think this is probably the question that, you know, most of you, if not all of you, whether you're an engineer or a producer or an artist, you want to ask, how do you get on radio? And the answer can be a short one or a long one, you know. But the answer I will give you in my position, I mean, I've run a lot of radio stations, and fortunately I've been a musician as well, with a SAMRO award in my belt, you know. So I've kind of been, I've done all of it, you know. And anything in this realm that we are in, that I've done, I've gotten an award for it. So I'm an authority on this, and I'll tell you exactly how it works. It has to do with the value chain, okay? And one of the most important things that you can do for yourself is to own the value chain. How do you own the value chain? Give you an example. Chris, for instance. 15, 20 years ago, I bet you Chris slept for an hour a day. And this is not a joke, right? We launched, when the launch of Boom Chaka happened, I don't even think Chris took a bath for even 3 days sometimes, you know. And it's not a hygiene thing. It's not a hygiene thing. It's a thing that you have to keep moving, because you've worked with the big labels and you understand that back then when you worked with the big labels, you had to give them so much and end up with very little. And that was because most artists back then were not owning the value chain. Then what is the value chain? Okay. You are the artist, you have the IP, meaning intellectual property. You're the voice, you create the beats, you engineer this, that's you. You are the business, right? You make Coca-Cola. Making Coca-Cola is not enough. How are you going to get people who sell things like Coca-Cola to sell your Coca-Cola? That's the next step, right? And then, how are you going to help those people who sell Coca-Cola to help you sell your Coca-Cola? You still follow, right? So, you're an artist, you've got the music, you own the value chain in terms of production, right? How do you then get it out of the studio to the shops? You talk to a music car, for instance. This is the old way of doing things, right? I think the new way has been discussed. The shelving space, where does your CD lie, right? Is it at the back? Is it in the right genre? You know, there were times when people like Prondov were struggling because these music outlets didn't know what Prondov music was. They call it disco, they call it traditional, they call it African, they call it Afro-pop. So you have all these things that you have to contend with. But at the end of the day, you have to understand, and I'm not going to tell you intimately what your value chain is. You have to understand what your value chain is and how to exploit it. But one of the mistakes that people make from an ownership of IP point of view is to think that the music is what you're selling. The music is not the only thing you're selling. It is the sleeve. It is how the artwork is done. It is how your track listing is, even from which track is first, which track is second, which track is third, which is the bonus track, which track are you going to hold on to, and then after you sold 10,000, you have a deluxe CD that has an extra new track that has been remixed by Ralf. It's all those things that one has to do. When it comes to my area of radio, I find that a lot of people, there's a lot of wastage. You know, you guys get your hard-earned cash, you see it, eh? You print the CDs and you give them for free to these music managers. It's not, that thing costs you money, man. You're taking this CD, you drop it off for reception in a brown envelope, written DJ Lepanta. You know, and you expect the music manager to look at that brown envelope and think, wow, this is interesting, this is really nice. I think I must listen to this thing, right? It's you and 10 other people in 1 hour. In 1 hour, you and 10 other people, and you put it in a brown envelope where it's like a big ball pen, and the spelling is also wrong. Let me tell you, you might feel a little bit prejudiced, but that's how the day works. A guy wakes up right? He probably was denied sex the previous night. No, for real, this is real life. He comes into work pissed off like nobody's business. At the reception, there's this woman who gives him a brown envelope. I saw him in the office. Gives him a brown envelope. He's gonna take that brown envelope and chuck it into some bin somewhere. Now, one CD has cost you so much money, and you have gone and given this CD your IP, something that you worked so hard on. You've put it on a brown envelope and given it to the lady at the reception. And there's no guarantee that that lady go reception is not going to keep it or give it to the music manager. Relationships, and here's the solution. The relationships are very important, guys. Relationships are very, very important. I don't know how many of you have been following the story of Jennifer Lopez. That story has been making headlines. I was in Japan about a week ago, and the interesting thing about what happened with her is that she decided just last week to own the value chain. She realized that there was a difference between Jennifer Lopez and J-Lo. So what she's doing now is that every movie, everything she gets involved in, she gets a cut. It's not a salary anymore. But as Chris said, you know, no one just becomes Black Coffee. Imagine how many movies did Jennifer Lopez make? How many naked pictures did she send to the internet, as Chris said? But in the end, there had to be a realization that there is a value chain here. Someone has a movie script and says, with this movie that I'm thinking about, I'm thinking J-Lo can be a great actress. J-Lo has to then say, okay, how do I then make money out of it? Do I grab a salary? Or do I say, I will help you market this thing. I will tweet the shit out of this thing. I'll put it on Instagram. I'll do press junkets. I'll do everything. But for that, and to be in your movie, I need X amount of money as a down payment, and at the 13th threshold, when the movie starts to make over 10 million, I start making 100,000 with every 1 million that you make. So, but do you understand that this is, guys, what you work on is not, and with due respect to people who make bricks, bricks. You know, you make samende, you know, everybody, you learn it, but the art that you guys are involved in, that's your soul. That is your everything. Some of you have been given money by your own folks because they love you so much. And the wastage that I see and the expectation that radio station will play your music because you think you're the shit. And the fact that fingers will be pointed at radio stations for playing shit music, I think that's bullshit, because a lot of the music that you hear on radio is people pushing really, really hard, breaking down the doors, waiting for this guy here to knock off. Leave five in there. Who is he going to pick? There's 5 of you waiting in Kalika City. Who is he going to pick? Think of it this way. Attitude is everything, guys. Barcelona and that other team in white playing at the same time. They have the same level of stars, brother. Which team is going to win at the end? It is the team that has the attitude. Orlando Pirates, Kaiser Chiefs. It is the team that has the attitude that will win. It is not Sundowns that has players that are paid 24 million. It is on the pitch on the day which team has the attitude to win that will win. You saw that a lot with Bafana back in the day. Right now you don't see it. It is the attitude at the end of the day. What is it that made the people at 5FM to go get this guy? I find that artists, by and large, feel that once I've done this CD, it's over, it's finished, I'll take it to a radio station. Radio station doesn't play it, Sunday worked. They don't play my music. I just think that you are disadvantaging yourselves without knowing. I don't think you guys do it on purpose. I just think that in some instances there's a lack of creativity outside of the studio. Your creativity ends in the studio. And then you are so tired and like, oh, phew, it's over. And imagine this for a second, right? Any one of you, you work on a CD, 7 tracks, or maybe an EP of 4 tracks. And you come to this venue here, and you have a deal with them, like, look, I want to have a listening session. You call Mesia and Power, and some of these guys, you try and find out, what is this one? Now I love Jack Daniels. It's been Jack Daniels for 20 years of my life. I wouldn't drink anything else. You call me, you say, Bob, I have a bottle of Jack Daniels and something. You're not bribing me, right? You are creating an environment before you even release this thing, and you say to me, come and listen to this thing, go on Capelas. You know? Maybe, guys, this is real, guys, right? The environment is perfect. You play those 4 tracks, and you say to these music managers, you know, what do you think of this track? No, maybe, you know, the chorus is too repetitive, the chords and strings are not right, your hook is not really a hook. Piano, you know. And then you go back into, so what I'm saying in short, guys, and this is me, I'm done, and maybe I'll take questions. Kid Fonque will probably have something else to say as well, is that the creativity does not stop in the studio. When you think about the hard work that you put into making music, think about even more hard work to getting at least playlisted. And in closing on my part, being playlisted doesn't equal money. There are a lot of artists who get played like nobody's business, like the rotation is very high, but it does not necessarily translate into revenue. The mistake lies in the value chain and the infrastructure in this country. Why is it that it's easier for some musicians to make money overseas? It's because the value chain overall is very much intact. You have in the US, for instance, there are what they call guilds, G-U-I-L-D, like the Musicians Guild, Producers Guild. These are people who get themselves together and they discuss ideas. Who knows when next this is going to happen? No one knows, right? But if there was a guild, for instance, that said, we are going to take care of each other's interests, guys. You know, I have a connection in Kaya, I have a connection with Metro. When something comes up, we come together, we book a table, and we discuss how we're going to do it. You know, your track is nice, but let me help you get a riff. You know, he's mean guitar, he's 14 years old. Let's put in a guitar riff there. You know, that sort of stuff. Most artists overseas work like that. In this country, you got one beat, you think, yes, this is good. You finish, you rush off, put it in a brown envelope, put it conception, it doesn't get played, Sunday worked. Radio stations hate my music. Value chain is very important. Airplay doesn't necessarily translate into sales. Creativity does not stop in the studio. Relationships, attitude. Those are my 5 things. I'm out.
Very wise words from Bob. I mean, I come from both sides. So I come from working at a record label that was supposed to make hits. Soul Candy was about making money. So I was on the front line looking for people to make songs that would get onto radio and make the business money. But the formula is not the same for every single artist. The formula is very different. If you look at the formula for Soul Candy, when they landed Mikasa, they took that formula and kind of blanketed every artist after that. The problem is every artist after that is not Mikasa. He's not Jay something. And if I look at Jay's attitude when he started, just like Bob was saying, that's exactly what got Jay to where he is. Because Jay was willing to take a gig when the album dropped for 50 Rand just to be playing a gig. He wasn't sitting there going, I've done a CD, I'm gonna chill back, on Soul Candy Records, come, book me, 500 Rand. He did whatever had to take to get him where he is. And that attitude took him there. Now I say when I come from 2 sides, that was me as Alan Nickel, label manager, Soul Candy Records. Kid Fonque, on the other hand, is not necessarily about hits. Kid Fonque is about the music, 100%. And I always had these battles working at Soul Candy. So when I got the slot on 5, and when I opened up my own record label, State Tree Sounds, it was never about, the whole thinking of running a record label and the whole thinking of presenting a show was always music first. And when I sign music to my record label, I never think, is this going to be a hit? If it is a hit, we've had, I think, 2 songs that have done relatively well on radio. Dawson, Forbidden, and Dawson with Zion Changes. But it was not intentional. We weren't sitting there in a studio going like, okay, we need to make money. Let's get Zion on this track, put it together, you know, we're going to be driving a Lamborghini by the end of the year. There was never the thought. It was music first. If the music was great, then the label succeeded, the artist succeeded. And I think Dawson's done wonders from where he was, like a young guy in Cape Town to where he is now. You know, as a label, we've done the job. But I think to wrap up what I'm trying to say is, you need to think about what you want to be and where you want to stand as an artist before you do anything. Do you want to be a Julian Gomes, who is very underground, very well respected, not necessarily, I mean his new record that came out yesterday, not one radio hit, not one vocal, but amazing. That's his lane. He didn't make that record to be #1 on Metro. He made that record because he wanted to make a great record. Or do you want to be someone who's going to make hits and sit in studio and try to find that hook and sit and knock on Metro FM's door every single day? I think you need to ask yourself that first before you move forward with what your career is. That's me.
You'll be amazed. I've been trying to make I've been trying to do a compilation CD of I've got 5 albums that I've released, and one of them earned me a SAMRO award. Right, that's my wife.
Go Bob. Silence.
So I've been talking to Chris and Vinny. I've been for the longest time I've been wanting to do a compilation of certain songs that were famous during the days, you wouldn't know, but I'll say it anyway, the days of a club called Gemini. And it was an institution of note, Club Gemini. And there are certain songs that were not very famous, but they are the basis of what house music has become today. You think you struggle to get something from Christos. Imagine, I've come a long way with this guy. I can't get into a meeting with him. So you may be thinking that the things that we are suggesting to you, we think it's easy, it's not, right? But it doesn't preclude us from saying them anyway, right? It is not easy to just get in the studio and I'm not creating a hit, I'm just making good music, right? But I've been talking about this compilation with Christos now for probably 5 years, and it's just not happening, right? He's busy, I'm busy, there's timing issues, there's family, I running radio stations, and then there's my life, and there's my bottle of Jack to take care of as well. So it does get busy, and people, I mean, if you want to be the top 10, someone asked about being a top 10 fan, it's impossible, guys. It's impossible to be a top 10 fan of anything. Your attitude counts a whole lot more when everything else doesn't count, But I think more than anything, if you remember anything out of this from what I've said, is the collaboration is very important as well. I find that, there's too many splinter groups. People take care of themselves too much. Yeah, sure, take care of yourself, but surely there's gotta be someone in this room, at least one person, when you leave here, that you can talk to and collaborate on something. There's probably a graphic designer who designed someone's album and you liked it. There's probably someone at the back end. Someone asked about Final Mix, who does things very well. There's, so try and collaborate. People who do everything by themselves are very rare right now. I mean, the last artist that did everything by themselves is dead. That was Prince, right? Prince would play the guitar on one track and then chill, smoke some weed, play the drums, chill, and then put it all together, and it would be Sign of the Times. It would be a fantastic song. But now, you need to collaborate, guys. You can't be good at everything. And after you've done all of that, make those relationships stick. I think we'll take questions.
Yeah. Okay.
How do you do this?
Chris.
How do you do the question part?
We need the mic.
Questions. Okay. Let's try to get different people, please. 1, 2. Okay, we've had you before, but you haven't asked me. 3, 4 at the back. 5. 6. In that row. Okay. There's 7. And then let's do this, because we want to take a quick break after this. There's something nice for you. We want you to get it, and then just continue, so we don't run out of time and inconvenience people. So number 1, where was number 1? Let's do this. And please, if you don't mind, just to step forward once it's your turn, and let's make it happen. No long questions.
How's it, guys? As you guys coming from the radio background, I'd just like to know, it's a two-part question. The hours of preparation in terms of preparing for your show. You, Rob, from a talk show perspective, and Kid in terms of music, especially with Kid. You're not genre specific. How long do you have to plan to say, okay, I'm going to start off with a little bit of R&B, and then I'm going to drop a little bit of house, and then I'm going to go into some deep tech. How long does it take you to do that? Because I think a lot of people take that for granted. You can't just randomly pop up in studio and I'm going to play these songs. So I'd like to know, hours of prep, how long does it take you guys to prep that?
So Selective Stars, as you said, is very music heavy. So I'm not getting songs from upstairs and I talk around it. It's very about me and my taste and showcasing. It takes me a week, dude. It literally, from Sunday, Monday, I upload the show every Monday morning. So I've recorded it, I uploaded it, and I put the track listing up. From that moment, I'm listening to promos, just going through music constantly online. I use so many sources. I use Bandcamp, I use TrackSource, I get a lot of promos. There's a community that I kind of source from within the label. So Dave Martian will put me onto Escapism Refuge, and this guy will do that. It's like this network, and it's been built from Soul Candy days. What I'll do is I'll take all the music that's new, and I'll put it in a pot, and then I curate the show. Then I'm like, what's going to be the best song to open with? How am I going to flow from there? But I will take that sequence and put it in the car, or put it in if I'm traveling on my iPod, and I listen. And I tell you now, there will be 5 or 6 changes before I even get up to the show. So it's a whole, and I think you can hear the prep, you can hear the love, and you can hear the music. And some music's in today, and by tomorrow it's out. It doesn't cut it. And the thing is, I'm gonna keep moaning about this time thing. Like, I only have 2 hours. I've got the shortest amount of time on 5FM over anyone. And don't get me wrong, I'm very happy. I'm over the moon that I have at least 2 hours. But those 2 hours, no fillers. Has to be amazing from the beginning to the end. And for me, it's gotta be new, and it's gotta be stuff that you've never experienced before. Stuff that and like a sprinkle of classics, you know what I mean? But it's a new music show. To answer your question, it's my life. It literally takes me all the time. I'm constantly thinking. From the way here, I was listening to how Sunday's show is going to run. So yeah, that's my answer.
I think the one thing that you can do, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial, but it's the truth. A lot of music radio stations, not all of them, but a lot of them would take someone, what's a sound, to be the music manager, who does not understand the technical aspect of actually how a radio clock works, right? So when you pick a radio station that you want to sample, and they say no, your piece doesn't fit the format. How many of you have heard that? No, it doesn't, it's not our format, right? What you must do then in 1 hour, just give yourself time. In 1 hour plot, do a little circle, and then count how many songs they've played in that 1 hour, and then try and identify the genres of that music. You'll be surprised what you come up with. You'll be surprised that you are being bullshitted actually, and that you can actually push back and say, but hold on just a second. In 1 hour, you played the same genre of the music that I played. You know, so I think it also helps to understand how radio actually works as well, to your advantage.
And when I spoke about people taking care of themselves too much, I have a 2-part question. It's actually building on to what you just said now. How do you decide on your compilers in the radio station? And is there pushback for record labels or artists? Because if somebody, for instance, says, pay me so much and then I'll play your music, what can you do?
Well, to start with, I would fire anyone who has taken money. I would fire them. I would. The thing about it is that if between the artist and the music compiler, I don't know. You can't effect something that you don't know, right? So if some people keep paying and I don't know about it, I can't fire the person. That's one. The second one is influence and pushback, right? From my point of view, and this is what I've tried to do with the radio stations that I work with, is go-to. You know, if someone has dropped off a CD, and I know the guys in charge of music, GOGO Power, has been doing it lately because I've been pushing him to do it. If someone drops off a CD and the music is not format fit, or you're not gonna play the music, get back to them and tell them why. And then take that CD back to reception so they can come and take it back. And they can take it somewhere else. You know, because to print one CD costs quite a bit of cash, you know. So I can tell you this much, at Power, that's what, and this is just something that I started instituting, unfortunately, only 2 months ago. Because there was an artist who actually called my office and said, look, I know that this is fit format, GOGO Power, but I'm not being playlisted. You know, and that person actually sent about 5 emails until they actually got hold of my cell phone number and I had to respond. You know, so this rule is only about 2 months old, and the rule is very simple. Messiah, if someone drops off the CD and you've listened to it, give feedback at least, and then drop the CD off at reception and let the person know that it's not fit format because of 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, but generally there isn't any recourse. There isn't a platform for recourse.
It's illegal. It's malfeasance. You gotta fire the person and get them arrested.
How do you find the corruption? Where?
You take them to the police station, chief. That's what happens. I mean, if in my organization, I mean, you know, the radio station is not about playing music and content. You know, it's a radio station that has shareholders. It has certain things that you have, certain boxes you have to take. You know, there's corporate governance as well. I report to shareholders. Every 4 months, I have to report to 2 bodies outside of the radio station, shareholders and funders. I have to report on these things. Now, if there is visible and known malfeasance, I have to report it. If I don't, then I'm an accomplice. Either I fire the person, or I actually report the person to the police station. It's a crime. But you know, here's the thing about it. You know this. There's a corruptor and the corruptee. Right? Certain record labels will pay people. There was an attempt to pay me when I was at Metro. I mean, some guy put me in a boardroom table, a long boardroom table, and he sits on the one side and I'm sitting on the other side. And then we talk and he says, hey man, there was a CD called, now I'm gonna reveal things. I'm not gonna say what the CD is. But I was playing that CD because I loved it. I actually loved the CD. But the guy felt that he wanted to thank me for playing the CD. So I'm sitting there and he says, yeah, we talk and I thank you for playing that CD. Oh no, it's great music, it's fine, it's cool. He says, no, check under the table. I checked under the table, there's every little chief, look, there was like money there. There was money there. Now, I look around and I realize that there was a camera in that room, right? And you have to understand that the way he made me sit and where he was sitting, it was already suspicious. From a human being point of view, I was about 23. I don't know if I would have taken the money if the environment was the way it was. But when you're older and you're wiser, you know and you do better. Right now, I know that it kills the industry, this kind of thing. I'm older, I'm wiser, I know better, so I do better.
Okay, my question to you guys is, how do I get to volunteer on one of your shows?
I've never had a volunteer on my show, and I'll tell you why. Because I really feel like my show is so different to every other radio show. So, I mean, mine is very personal. And that's exactly it. For that exact reason, I like my studio to be a certain way, for me to talk a certain way, for the music to resonate a certain way. And if someone's in my space, it bugs me, it niggles me. It's like it's not the vibe that I want. That's me personally. I mean, when I get in the studio, I'm the only one that dims the lights. I mean, I literally make it like a baby. It's like I dim the lights, I like make sure everything's just right for the next 2 hours. But that's me. I'm sure there's many opportunities with other radio shows.
Well, the question would be doing what? Volunteer doing what? As a DJ. What's a DJ? I don't have, none of my radio stations have DJs. I have radio presenters. I don't have DJs. As a radio presenter, what have you done so far?
Okay, I've done TV presenting calls for Country Communications, where Bonan and Buiti are from, and I couldn't sign up for the radio.
Have you attended any of my radio workshops? One of them was Soweto, at the Grace Church in Vinci. I normally have radio workshops. Now, for everyone else's benefit, it's also about the value chain as well. You have to understand how the whole thing works. how you get in there. You know, a lot of people have snuck in there. I mean, it took me more than a year to get into radio. I left Atteridgeville at age 18. And it took me a whole year to get into radio. I used to sleep at reception at Radio 1. You know, when I left, my parents were like, what we bought you stays behind. You leave with, because they wanted me to be a lawyer. And I wanted to be a radio presenter. They said, and I was doing DJ stints. So they said, this little money now that you've done with the DJ, you take that money and you go be that DJ thing that you don't understand. So I left with 2 pairs of jeans, 2 pairs of underwear, toothbrush, toothpaste, a lot of vinyls. And I kept knocking on that door and you know, I really believe in the higher power, you know. I think I was, in the end, when I was about to give up, I happened to be at the right place at the right time. The guy on the afternoon drive show had smoked some weed, and he was chasing the station manager with a knife. And no, for real. And they were like, there's a guy here who's always a problem. You can't get the, let's audition. It was like that exactly. Like, we're going to audition you for the last time, G. If you fail and you're still in this building, we're going to get you arrested. So I got in there, and you know, at that time, the old radio pop guys, the old guys, were fading, and the new guys were getting in. But there was a pushback against the new guys. Like, we're making this radio station crash now, you know. So there was a resistance against. I mean, I was 19 years old, and so the person who was auditioning me thought they were going to mess with me. So they gave me music that I should play and present, and all of it was jazz. And I'm talking like Sonny Stitt, Sonny Rollins, John Coltrane. Unfortunately, that was my shit. So I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. But before that moment, when because my attitude, I think, was there, and the man upstairs showed me favor, I was present at that time, and I showed up, you know, and I became the first radio presenter to go from nowhere to a primetime slot. You know, it was not because of me. It wasn't because I was great. I was at the right place at the right time. I had persevered before that, and my attitude was right, and I prayed to a living God. Hi.
Sorry, I'm completely mistaken. Because of artist management perspective approach in the industry, I admire your balance between you being enthusiastic about the art.
No, but there's 2 people waiting. This guy should have asked the question. There's a lady at the back.
How do you balance the two? How do you feel the two?
Let her be the last one. The lady at the back.
Look, man, the stuff that I do is neither right nor wrong in my books. I do what I think is right. So what I'm going to tell you, I'm not saying it's the right thing, but it's what I do. First things first, I don't believe in balance, because seeking balance is fine by itself, you know. So I think you need to sort of try and find harmonize, you know. Some days you do things more of something, and some days you do less of something. Because if you're gonna strive for balance, you're gonna keep asking yourself, hey, when was the last time I phoned my girlfriend? You know, if there's time to phone her, you phone her. If there's time to work on a project, you work on it. Balance mustn't be, I don't think balance is attainable in the first place. That's my personal opinion. I don't think that balance is attainable. I mean, for the past probably more than 5 years, I've lived on 4 hours of sleep. Like 4 hours of sleep. I was raised by an old woman who believed in Ngome Mtonga, you know, and this is instilled in my head, you know. So every time I lay my head on the pillow, I think shit is going down and I'm going to miss it. Now, I'm not saying do that, and I know I'm going to pay the price going forward. You know, the stress is going to, I just know it, but at least I know it's coming, and I can live with it, you know. But balance, my man, I don't think that balance is attainable. I think seeking balance in itself is a problem, because you're going to try and sort out problems that you can't sort out when you need to sort them out. So do what you got, be in the environment and sort out the things you need to sort out when you need to sort them out at that time. And have a program of action for the day, you know. Because if you're gonna meander and let life happen to you, you're gonna end up doing nothing, you know. And don't make it like sit down for an hour trying to work out what am I going to do today, you know. Pick at least 3 things that will add value to what you're doing on that day. The others you'll just do as you have a snack or smoke your weed or whatever, you know. But at least those 3 things, you must achieve them. You must achieve them. If you don't, then it goes on to the next day. This is how we work on revenue on radio as well. We have a 12-month trajectory, right? Let's say you have 12,000 rand to make. If you aggregate it, it's 1,000 rand every month, right? If you don't make 1,000 rand in month 1 and you make 500, that means that what you didn't make then goes into the next month. Or you can take the balance of that 5,000 and put of that 500 and put 100 in the next month, 100 here. But what eventually happens is that if you don't achieve those tasks for the day, they make your life harder going forward because you still have to achieve those things. You know, I mean, if he doesn't take care and tick all the boxes, he still has to come back. He still got to come back and do that shit. It's not going to disappear because the sun has set and that day is gone. But balance, that will derail you, my man. It's not going to happen.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
My name is Thato.
You look angry. Are you okay?
No, I'm not angry. I'm just a bit nervous, but I'm not angry.
No. It's cool. Okay, nigga.
I'm from Karankua.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, because like my forte is I'm in the news department, but due to the influx of just people like hounding me about music and you know like getting airplay and everything, I just became interested in music compilation, right? And then I wanted to know like how does one go about it? Because how does one go about making sure that the cue sheets are there and then the artists are getting paid? Because gosh, people are so talented, eh? And we need to make sure that they get
sure,
you know, what they're worth.
You know, I attended a funeral a couple of years back. Yeah, Arthur's little brother, Mackenzie, and a speaker from SAMRO actually pointed at the coffin and said, "The guy lying in this coffin, I know for a fact that he hasn't actually registered his music." He knew for a fact. So, again, there's a certain level of excitement from people here of the studio. And then how Kataga studio, that's it. You work so hard in that studio putting your stuff together. And then just the mere fact of getting airplay becomes your excitement. It's your stuff, you own it. So when the cue sheets come, like presenters are lazy, right? Because at the end of the day, you are creating an environment to create a show, right? Paperwork is for creative people. Most, by and large, not just presenters. By and large, creative people are not paperwork crazy. They, you know. So just because you're not, don't think that radio presenters are not as well. They also don't like the paperwork, right? So again, it is worth your while to know, and I know it's a lot of work, guys, but also, and I'm answering your question in a roundabout way for the benefit of those who are in the arts, in the music, right, as we close. Sometimes you can actually even get your relatives to take and write down each time your song plays. You know, because the cue sheets that the radio station signs, sometimes people just write just to fill the cue sheets on yes, just to get that paperwork off the desk. That's what they do. I've seen them do it. Just to, and presenters as well, because if you have, in radio, there's a certain programming tactic that they call block programming, where a radio station will sound like 4 different radio stations, right? Like Metro, for instance. Metro, there's a lot of block programming, right? There's no overall sound of that radio station. It's the nature of that radio station, right? So sometimes you'll have a spot where on the cue sheet, on what the system runs, you'll have unscheduled positions, right, on their side. Meaning the presenter actually schedules manually their preferred music. 9 times out of 10, the presenters do not fill in those unscheduled positions. 9 times out of 10, I promise you, right? So with your relatives, your girlfriend, your cousin, whatever, guys, really, really take pride in your work and the music that you churn out. Try and take. Just make an example if you really need something. and take how many times your song has played on how many radio stations, and wait 6 months and see if what you're gonna get from your royalties is commensurate to what you have, right? That's on the one side. You know, my sister, too, long story short, I've got to be honest with you, you know? People don't care anymore. It's as simple as that, and it's a sad indictment on human nature. People just don't care anymore. So, the more we collaborate, the better it is for all of us, right? If you can just talk to as many musicians as possible and understand what is it that, you know, there's a tour that I did, and we had Christos, Fresh, Tabe, and the late Sakhe, where I took my listeners to Sun City on a bus, and we drank ourselves silly for a whole weekend. We're doing Mozambique in the next few weeks. And I had to use Mystery Girl, right? Yeah, that Christos wrote with Nelson Lee. I had to call him and ask his permission to use that song. I didn't just, now how many people would do that? People just use your works, right? And him knowing me knowing him, it would have been like, oh dude, now you're stealing from me, a friend of yours. You know what I mean? But sometimes you guys tend to, well, at least it's airplay. No, nigga, it's not. It's your IP. You can't expect other people to respect your IP if you yourself do not respect your IP. So there's no way this can be done, my sister. I'm afraid, you know. And I'm going to borrow a little bit as I close from what Christos says. Sometimes radio stations, employees in radio stations just don't care. It's a matter of just getting the job done. It's just the way it is. But the more you collaborate amongst yourself and help each other out, the better.
Cool. Thank you, Ellen. Unfortunately, we are already super late. Sorry, brother.
I was raising my hand there. That's all.
Next time, we are 1 hour behind the schedule. Sorry. That's why I wanted to ask you if it's cool for you that we only do 15-minute break instead of the half hour. You agree? Rather getting more information?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we do a short break now. I want you to somehow orderly pass where you see Steffen, because we have a little goodie bag for you. There's a t-shirt of the embassy in there, and a CD, GOGO Music CD, and a water, which we all need because it's hot in here.
You gotta have the green tag now to get it. You gotta have the green tag, and orderly and 3 and 15.